ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the April safety training. I am. The first one we'll start off with is the SMP06, which is inspections and assessments. And I can say before we go through these modules that we are in the process of revising the safety procedures, in which case when that happens there will be a whole new training. So for now, we stay with what we have. We'll train on this. When the new one comes, we'll train on that one. Three basic trainings, or basic inspections, I'm sorry. Workplace safety, equipment, and the annual safety assessment. It all starts with the housekeeping. It's funny, but when an inspector or anybody comes to the plant and they see that it's clean and not dirty, it puts in their mind that we're a good plant, and that's the starting point. Housekeeping as far as buildings, offices, outside areas, and enclosures. If we keep that in mind, it makes us look like a much better facility. And honestly, if we pay attention to these things, it means we're paying attention to the bigger stuff too. As far as frequency of inspections, it varies. There is the main one, which is the weekly inspection that is done by operations for safety, health, environmental. But there's also monthly inspections for things like fire extinguishers and showers. And some plants choose to break down plant areas, and do a responsibility of keeping the area clean as far as housekeeping goes. And if you go into the hallway, there is a sheet that was developed that showed each shift and of course the managers, maintenance, whatever, what areas were theirs. If I recall, for the managers, it was the area outside the street, the road, and even to this day, when I see trash on there, I'll pick it up and I'll throw it away. Workplace safety inspections. Any deficiencies should be corrected upon discovery if possible. If you can fix it, fix it. If you can't, then go ahead and document it so it'll be tracked via MainSaver or with facilities to-do list. Plant manager shall be notified of results of each inspection on the inspection sheet. This is as far as deficiencies go. Plant equipment will be inspected, calibrated, maintained, and regularly scheduled maintenance will be done as far as on equipment deterioration, equipment damage, and potential safety hazards. If you see any of those, boom. One quick one, the harnesses. Harness straps may look old or get old as far as dirt, but really the straps that we have on these harnesses, when they wear, there is another color underneath that'll start showing, and that's an indicator right there. Employees will visually inspect all equipment. Anything you use just prior to use, by all means do that. And this includes verifying any required inspection calibrations has been performed. If you have a piece of equipment, a power tool, whatever, make sure that tape has the right quarter on it. Any equipment that fails inspection should be taken out of service. Tag do not use and indicate repairs required. Another thing to do, for instance, with power cords or with ladders, if they're in bad shape, not safe, let's go ahead and cut those suckers up and throw them in the trash. Deficiency will be documented and tracked, as I said earlier. As far as equipment inspection, plant manager will assign competent persons to conduct the required periodical inspections, and that's already been set up. Each of us has our responsibilities. Some equipment may require a qualified inspector. For instance, you might have slings, and that bring a guy in from the outside to do an inspection on that is preferable. A guide is provided in the S&P for determining various inspection requirements, and the manufacturer's recommended inspection criteria should be considered when determining frequency, type, and required qualification certifications. We can go ahead and move to the forklift, manless scissor lift. We must do that every shift, the inspection prior to use. There's one other piece, and that is that inspection sheet was built off of the owner's, the OEM, the original manufacturer's manual. Annual safety assessment. This is something that we've done before. It's basically we go and walk through the plant for a specific area and note any deficiencies, what we're doing, what we're not doing. Plant manager shall notify the results of each inspection. One example, we do have an annual audit. We have annual other ones too. Outside agencies, for instance, OSHA. Inspections by outside agencies will be administered per 107 non-NACE inspections. We have to notify. Now, we used to notify NACE, but what we'll do is we'll notify Lone Star 2 and Kindle if we have an inspection. An outside agency, there's a visit form, and we'll go ahead and document the information based on that. In addition, any OSHA citation response process, is in Appendix E of 107, is provided, and should and OSHA citation should. That's improper syntax, but it is provided should an OSHA citation be issued. All right. Now we move to the next. Hazardous Communication Program, HazCom. Purpose is to ensure all the hazards of the chemicals produced or stored are evaluated, and the information these hazards is transmitted to the employees. This is to reduce all kinds of injuries or any kind of unexpected situations. We have written programs, labels, SDS, the former MSDS, and training, which we go like, for instance, this. Employer responsibilities. The boss man of the company needs to identify the hazardous chemicals on the site, have the SDS sheets for it, and implement a written HazCom program, including the labels and the employee training. Communicate the hazard information to the employees through labels, SDS, and formal training programs. Fortunately, at a plant, this is an industrial site, but an industrial site that does not have as many chemicals of concern as a lot of other petrochems out there. You can think of the bleach, the sulfuric, things like that. Those grab attention immediately. The employee would follow the proper material handling procedures, use the right PPE, and ensure the chemical containers are properly labeled. We're starting to have an issue with this where we have containers out there that haven't been labeled. Basically, if you have a tank container, a drum that has used oil, just write in used oil. If the used oil is not in there anymore, you don't use it for used oil, just cross it out. Report any non-compliance to immediate supervisors. This includes inspections, prior to use, any situation. Hazards of the workplace. There's basically two kinds. There's physical hazards and health hazards. There's also environmental, which is another area, but the two primary ones that are immediate concern are these two. And some of the physical hazards, you can think about anything that can hurt you immediately. If you look at these. We don't have any explosives, but we definitely have compressed gases. You'll see some labeling as we migrate towards this. You'll see on some of the totes, drums, you'll start seeing these pictograms. And let's go ahead and show, here's one for aquatic toxicity, this one for environmental. An example is polychlorinated biphenyls from old transformers. We do not have that issue here. Health hazards, if you look on the right, you look at this person with some sort of star appearing on him, that's a health hazard, an ingestion issue. Of course, skull and crossbones, poison. This is to grab your attention, and this is a corrosive. This would be like a special area. A corrosive metals in hands, and other things besides hands. An example of this GHS, if you look at it, it'll have the product name, the warning pictogram to kind of help you, it's international, signal word, warning or danger, and hazard statement, precautionary statement, and supplier information. And you'll start seeing more of this. Stationary process containers, like storage tanks, and don't forget the pipes. They may use signs, placards, process sheets, batch tickets, operating procedures, or other materials. And we'll have the information, some of it thanks to ChemTreat, on there describing what it is. You must identify the containers which label is applicable and convey the information required on secondary containers. The written materials must be readily accessible. NFPA. They come out with that diamond. The top part, the red, can it catch on fire? The left part, health, is it going to hurt you? Is it inhaling the vapor, or getting on your clothing, or is it coming on your skin, breathing, anything? Can it hurt you there? The right, reactivity. Is it going to mess with water? Is it going to mess with metals? An example would be the sulfuric acid. That's very reactive. Bottom part right here is a special area. You typically don't see something on there. Once in a while you do. Once again, you might see it also formed in this way: health, flammable, reactive, specific. The SDSs, they've been made uniform because not long ago they were tailored to whatever the company wanted to put on there, but what they have now is a 16-piece steps, 16 steps in it. It must have all of these, and as a matter of fact, each section will be listed as such. And I would say the hazard identification and the ingredients are probably the first things you want to look at. You want to find out what kind of danger and what the chemicals are. Basically, you will say, oh, it's amazing sol. Amazing sol, what is that? Well, it has methylene chloride. Methylene chloride is not good stuff. So the ingredients and the hazard identification probably. These are all useful, but those are the two main ones. Handling the chemical emergencies, knowing the emergency phone numbers. I hope you know the number for 911. Know how to control the spill, know the proper equipment shutdown procedure, and how to properly evacuate the routes and assembly areas. Now, go to assembly areas. Now, as far as this goes, controlling the spill, we have the stocks. We can do basic control for small spills. If a big tank just explodes all over the place, we're going to call in help. We have a couple of companies in our emergency response plan. Some general safety tips. Don't eat, drink, or smoke while using hazardous chemicals. Use personal protective equipment as required, and make sure all the chemical containers are properly labeled. Always wash up after using chemicals. You want to be touching something and then you go and you have your sandwich and the sandwich tastes funny. It's not good. All right. Never smell or taste a chemical to identify it. Know all the emergency procedures. Always read the SDS label and mention those two areas I mentioned are probably the most important. Store all the chemicals properly in containment, and always use the hazardous chemicals as intended. As an end, the hazard communication program is based on a simple concept that we need to know. Excuse me. Employees also need to know what protective measures are available to prevent this, as far as mechanical controls and engineering controls, and also PPE. OSHA's update to the HazCom standard adds new labeling, and because of the phase compliance schedule, both the old and new labels will be in the workplace for some time. All right. Throat's getting a little dry. Keep on going. Just wanted to interject this picture right here. I have a couple of pictures. This guy is showing off his balancing skills, but that is not what we want to see at the plant. One time, the turbine people, they were working with PSM, and they were working on Unit 2, and there was a scaffold that was constructed to access part of the turbine, and there was a guy climbing around the outside of the second floor, the second tier of it, like a jungle gym. Next to me was the safety guy for PSM, and I said, "Did you just see that? Yeah. Is that a safe procedure?" He goes, "Probably not." The lesson I learned from here is when you have a lot of people, and we do have requirements, like we have 25 contractors, we require them to bring a safety guy. That safety guy works for the contractors, and he may not be fully enthusiastic about enforcing the rules. It falls upon us to keep an eye on these people. Respiratory program, we have this in place even though we don't have anything that's really a deadly aerosol. There was a suggestion that the sulfuric acid mist could spring a leak out of a pipe or something like that, and you could inhale it. These are very rare situations, but as part of being a member of NACE, we wound up getting supplied air PAPRs. Or actually PAPRs, they're not supplied air, they're filtered air. Employees are required to identify and evaluate the respiratory hazards in the workplace. Number one was the sulfuric acid mist issue. Further, the employers should provide respirators that are adequate protection of each health. To get a regular respirator, you have to make sure your lungs are strong enough. But if you have the supplied air through the filter PAPR, you don't have to worry about whether you're strong enough. It's going to provide air for you to breathe. Plant manager acts as the program administrator. He always does that. And he shall ensure that all covered employees are thoroughly trained and fit tested to use the respirators. Once again, we don't need fit testing for a PAPR. You take the PAPR, put the helmet on your head, put the little slip under your chin, turn it on, and you're basically receiving the benefits. Employees must be aware that the equipment does not eliminate the hazard. In other words, this is to deal with a difficult situation, in some cases to get the hell out of Dodge. Employers and employees must understand the equipment's purpose and its limitations, and there'll be some descriptions up here from the next slides. Respiratory program elements: selection of the equipment, medical evaluation, and fit testing. For PAPRs, no. Their use, maintenance and care, breathing air quality, use, training, and program evaluation. So let's see. Each employee shall demonstrate knowledge, or at least the following: why a respirator is necessary, the limitations of the respirator, how to use it, how to inspect and put it on, procedures for maintenance and storage, and how to recognize medical signs and symptoms that may limit the effective use of respirators, general requirements of the standard. If you look at all this, it's generally tilted towards a respirator mask that you would use, that you'd be breathing through your own filters. When we have a PAPR, a lot of these things are relieved. And I can tell you, with the PAPR, put the battery on, put the belt around you, get the helmet on, thing on your chin, make sure the hose is connected, turn the thing on, and it's providing you with air. That's how you do it. As far as storage and inspection, we do have a main saver to go ahead and do a check every month. They are sitting in the cabinets in the utility room behind the control room. Talks about selection of the respirators, and I can say that as far as all this goes, that those PAPRs are a better choice overall. Respiratory selection. There's two categories. There's air purifying, the ones that have filters, and then there's the atmosphere supplied ones. If you look over here, I'm talking about SCBA here versus a face respirator mask. This is what we have. And PAPRs are similar to the supplied air source, but the air source is not supplied. There you go. Similar to PAPRs in that the air source is not supplied. In other words, you're actually it's still taking the air from the surrounding area. A power source, usually a battery pack, operates a blower that passes air through to purify the air to the face piece. It's much less heart and lung stress, much less demand on the system there. Dust masks, they're good. They're good for basic work. They can provide 10 times the exposure limit. In other words, they reduce it by tenfold. And it doesn't help for oxygen deficiency. It doesn't help when it's beyond 10 times. And it's not necessarily, it's not for vapors. Up here, replace dust masks at least daily. If you're using a dust mask, you will want to replace it daily. They cannot be cleaned or repaired if soiled or damaged, and you replace them if breathing becomes difficult, if they are damaged, or if they have a whole layer of paint on them. Dispose of dust masks at the end of the day or shift, and this is typically the PAPR. Look at it, 25 to 1,000 times the purifying power. Production factor is unique to the manufacturer of the PAPR and how it's designed, but this is better than a dust mask, and it is better than a self-respirator. Escape-only respirators, they can be used in situations where we want to get the hell out. Now, we don't have these. We're not a chemical plant. We do have the PAPRs. We don't anticipate using them, but they're there if that time ever does come. All right. Show you some more pictures. This is some people, I don't know if they're trying to fix up here or what they're trying to do, but in a power line with a dump truck, with a scoop, I don't know. Because think about that. How do you think the guy's lanyard is fixed to that? Probably not. And hard hats must be OSHA acceptable. They must be ANSI rated. Bloodborne pathogens, guys. The crud that's going around and the pandemic, that's a bad bug. But this has got a higher rate of serious incidents as far as death and so forth. There's basically two kinds. There is the HIV, which is the AIDS precursor. It's the virus that causes AIDS. And hepatitis B, which is a normal blood disease. Think about it. Any kind of liquid form, any of these, any kind of liquid form in the body is a potential transmitter for HIV. It's also a potential transmitter for the other one too. Here we go. Common sense, guys. If you're exposed, wash your hands, wash your eyes. There it is again. 15 minutes washing your eyes. That's a long time to be washing your eyes. Report the exposure to your supervisor immediately and seek immediate help. There's a few other OSHA things that come along with this. If workers are exposed to the infectious materials, the hepatitis B vaccination may be available. Go ahead and take it. The vaccination used to be last, or was good for about 7 years. Now it's good for about 20 years. They've gotten the inoculation to be done a lot better. The thing is, with these, with the crud we're dealing with right now, those shots may be only good for 4 to 6 months. Hopefully they'll get better with that. But with hepatitis B, it's good. It will be provided within 10 days. It will not cost you money, and it'll be done under healthcare supervision, preferably at a hospital or clinic. Now, exposure at work is serious, and there following exposure, a medical evaluation must be done. That is an OSHA requirement. Must follow the procedures specified by OSHA. It must include the lab test, and is free to the employee, and the diagnosis is confidential. All right. For each exposed worker, the medical records must be kept for the duration of the employment plus 30 years. That's a standard OSHA requirement for more serious issues. Records must be confidential, and they must include the vaccination status, exam results, medical testing, written opinions, and info provided to the healthcare professionals. So, let's just say, contact with infectious body fluids can expose you to bloodborne pathogens, those specific ones. HBV, HIV, those are the ones we're mainly worried about. If exposed, you must wash your hands and eyes for a significant period of time. Report the incident, seek medical condition, attention, get vaccinated, and undergo testing. This is all a requirement of OSHA. As your employer, we are responsible for providing an exposure control plan, cleaning facilities, PPE, and hazard information. All right, thank you very much. That concludes the April safety training, and talk to you later.